One of the subjects we hear a lot about these days is the size of federal government. Everyone seems to be talking about that, and so many people say federal government has become too big, it's bloated, and that is our problem. But when we hear those comments, we usually don't have any way to compare the size of government today to anything. And so I usually say, well, compared to what? Compared to when? The size of the federal budget today, $3.6 trillion, compared to what? How do you measure how big it is? And I offer this to you. If you look back 50 years ago, exactly 50 years ago, 1961 to 2011, and you track inflation over that 50-year period, it's very interesting to see that most things have grown in cost by a factor of about 10 times what they were 50 years ago. A car that cost $25,000 today cost $2,500 in 1961. A house that cost at a certain price then is about 10 times that now. And so it goes. Even the price of gasoline, which today we're really worried about, the price of gasoline 50 years ago was about 30 cents a gallon. So yes, it has gone up quite a bit more, but not all that far from the 10 times growth factor I've already mentioned. But what about the federal budget? How much was the federal budget 50 years ago? It was exactly $95 billion. And today it's $3.6 billion. Now, if the federal budget had grown by the factor of 10 that everything else has, our total federal budget today would be about $1 trillion, not $3.6 trillion. So when you look at it that way and realize that the total size and expenditure of federal government is 36 times what it was 50 years ago, while all the rest of us has been moving along at 10% inflation, you get a much better understanding of how big federal government really has become. And where is most of that money being spent? Not nearly as much of it is being spent on defense as some people think. The defense budget as a percentage of the total is much smaller today than it was 50 years ago. But it's the entitlements, the cost of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security comprise the majority of that additional growth that has taken place in the federal government. I think this is an interesting way to look at it, and one that I ask everyone else to consider the next time you hear someone say, the problem is the size of our federal government.